Good morning, everybody. Live on a Wednesday morning. Here we are. Yeah, coming at you from the studio in Johannesburg where Simpiro is, from my house, and from the house of Lesego Maphanga, who is live on the show. You may remember Lesego as being one of the triumvirate who did a brilliant show called Gentlemen by Choice not so long ago. Feels like long ago, but it wasn't actually that long ago, here on cliffcentral.com. And Lesego has gone on to do all kinds of amazing things. So we're going to find out what he's been up to in the intervening few years. Nice to see you, man. Are you good?
I'm 100%, man. How you guys doing?
Yeah, good, man.
Awesome.
Good. How are you this morning, Simpiro? You finished wearing your slippers, and yesterday you were wearing a hat. Are you doing all these winter things that you can wear now?
Yes, I'm not a fan of winter. I don't
No.
think winter's the girl that it thinks it is, but we have to still look presentable for the people when you leave the house. So yeah, you'll see me in a lot of sporties, a dog. Yeah, that's like my winter aesthetic. Sporty and a dog. Let's go.
Well, whatever you got to do to keep warm, right? Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Lesego, let's just let's get up to speed. I mean, where have you been? What have you been doing? The last time I checked in on you, you were a very important banker. You were in banking. You had a whole career going over there. Are you still involved in that financial services world, or you moved on to something else?
Still involved in it.
Good.
I don't think I'll never not be involved in this. I think I'll just expand. So still in banking. It's an awesome environment. I think the culture plays to my benefit, to be honest. What I have done very interestingly, and I'm gonna show you guys my show reel, is I've dabbled a lot more into acting actually. So I've definitely moved more into the creative space because banking is cool and all that, but it's really just all spreadsheets. And that's
But isn't that where the money's at? This is how you make it rain on other kids.
Yeah, but the opposite of creativity is accounting, and the opposite of accounting is creativity, whether people like it or not. Now, I know some people in finances and in banking and all those kinds of industries on that side of the plate, but I don't know a lot of them who are also creative. It's like two different worlds. So if you are that kind of person, you have to find something completely different to do in your spare time.
Exactly,
However
100%.
little you have.
Because if you just do accounting, that's probably one of the slowest and most cruelest death that I can really think of. Because we're multifaceted as people, right? So even if you think about going back into high school or whatever, you did your academics, but you did your sports as well, and you found that balance, or you found the cultural activities, or maybe you liked maths, but you also liked English, or whatever the case may be. So the world has tried to make us really linear, which is actually not true. And so you need to just actively try and find your balance. So simply, you're 100% right. Banking is where the money's at. But once you're able to make the money and you kind of can stabilize yourself, now you really start thinking about your mental well-being and what am I doing with my life? And no, I'm not going to drive into an office every day and do PowerPoint presentations, etc. It's not all doom and gloom, but there's so much more to life, honestly.
Right. And you know what, Lesego, you said it just now. We are all multifaceted. Now, a lot of people, want to be able to, and I think this is almost like a career thing, or maybe it's a HR thing more than anything else. They want to be able to put you in a box, and there are very few of us who actually fit very neatly into a box because so many of us have got different aspects of our personalities, of our interests, of the kind of person that we like thinking of ourselves as. And you can be, and I think it's quite healthy to be a different person in the office to the person you are at home. Within limits, obviously. You don't want to be such a different person that it's almost like you've got split personalities. But if you ask me, am I an extrovert or an introvert? I have a real problem answering that question. I don't know, because I think a huge part of me is like, I love being on my own. I don't really need a lot of people around me. I'm very comfortable to sit for days on end without actually having any human interaction, and I'll be absolutely fine with that. But there's another part of me which it just craves and loves and thrives in human company, and that's pure extrovert, right? So everybody is a little bit of both, and everybody's a little bit creative, even if it's creative in a very bizarre way, and everybody's much more linear in a very specific way. Like you see people who are extremely good at, let's say they're really good at doing simple things like addition, subtraction, division, all that kind of thing. They're like basic arithmetic. And they really have a skill for that there's an ability for them to just get to the logical sequences and the equations and the clear calculations in their head. But they also might be able to just sit there and doodle and draw beautiful things while they're busy on the phone with somebody. I don't think anybody's just one thing.
Yeah.
Right?
No, they're really not. And I mean, you see it now, right? You see people that study one thing, then become something else. So people always say, oh, let's say you're an engineer, what are you doing in banking? And I'm like, no, well, those two things actually work together well. In fact, the best banker I know that I've ever worked with is a lady by the name of Antoinette Hoffman. She's actually at Vodacom now. And her qualification was in nursing. She was a nurse.
What?
Mind-blowing. She's actually probably one.
So different.
So mind-blowing. And let me tell you where it actually started to make sense, because we had to sit down with her, because I'm in payments and she's really the person that taught me payments. Yeah. And I was like, how were you able to just move from this one career to another? And, she said she loved caring for people, and, all this really, the soft skills that she had. Yeah. And then one day she just took a leap of faith and said, oh, well, let me just go try this banking thing. And she did it. And she was brilliant, phenomenal. And what makes her really good in the technical space, such as payments, is that she understands people, and she's able to teach a lot of people about payments and really simplify payments in its complexity. Because, nursing is not easy, right? You're diagnosing people, you're working with people that have very complicated illnesses, and you're trying to dissect this thing. So she's very good at dissecting, but she's also very good at interacting with people. That's what makes her a brilliant banker. So go figure.
Yeah. Some people just love people, and some people love things. Again, you would think that someone couldn't possibly be a banker and a nurse, and yet she thrived in a world of finances. It's weird. I often think, what job would I be doing if I wasn't doing this? And I'm sure we all think that. We all like, what is it the opposite end of the circle to what I'm doing? I don't know what it is, but I kind of get the feeling that something like actuarial science is at the opposite of what we do. And actuaries are, I know very few, but I don't know a lot of actuaries. The actuaries that I do know are definitely not boring people. They're pretty damn smart. Most of them have really good jobs, as in these are high paying, high pressure environments, massively competitive jobs. And yet, I think of what we do, and they would probably, very many of them would consider, speaking in front of people, or being able to just talk about stuff, or interviewing somebody, or working out some complex discussion or argument on air. And I don't think they could necessarily just do that with their eyes closed. So we all have different skills, but I just hate this idea that we are put in a box and that's where you're going to be for the rest of your life. Like our parents' generation, and even our grandparents to a degree, they would go into a job and that would be the only thing they would do their whole life long. And then, at like 65, which is not even that old, maybe even younger, they would be given a goodbye, that's your retirement, and that would be the end of their lives. And I'm like, that's not, we've realized that that's no way to live, and there's so much more to life than that.
Yeah, a very good example, actually, I'm thinking of it now. Remember Weza?
Yeah, we had him on the other day. Yeah,
this other day. He's a very good example. The guy studied chemical engineering, and I'm just like, that's quite intense. But the rest of the world knows him. But he's known. And what is he known for? He's known. Exactly. He's known. The guy is the most brilliant voiceover artist I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually mind-blowing.
It's amazing.
And why not, right? But I must tell you, G, you still get so much pushback even within normal corporate environments about trying to have multiple streams of income and just being a very different person. and the world is slowly understanding it, but it's still taking quite a bit of time to break out. I mean, I see it every day in the office space. People just don't get this thing. They're just like, yeah, listen, how you do acting. Okay, we don't quite get it, but it's fine. We'll give you the time you need to do it, and we'll see you later. And I'm just like, shoot, guys, fine. As long as you give me the time, it's awesome.
How much acting have you done, and what kind of acting are you getting into? Because there's not a lot of work in this country for actors, and even if there is, if you were just an actor, you'd be struggling because there's no money.
100%. So I'm so grateful because, guys, it is a war zone out there. My word.
Yeah.
Tell us.
So I mean, all the rumors that you hear about, oh my God, acting, you stand in a queue with 200 other people and then you audition for 2 minutes for one role. It's all 100% true. And it is incredibly competitive and you need to outperform, like be at your best at every audition, every casting, etc. So currently I've really just been able to get a lot of commercials. So last year was a pretty good year on the commercial side because again, there wasn't a lot of work. Did about 1 pilot and I think about 5 or 6 commercials. So that's...
Wait, how's that like? Like doing commercials, isn't that also like a nice big paycheck? Like, and then they're like, thank you.
Yeah.
No, so it's relative. If you compare it to banking, no.
Okay.
No. But obviously, if you compare it to being, let's say, unemployed, if I didn't have the banking in my life, then yes, then it would make a significant difference. It's really tough because for every one job you get, you go to about 5, 6, 7 different auditions. So really, that just kind of eats into your budget quite a bit, and it's also just extremely straining because to get into a character. I mean, somebody told me now, okay, cool, you're a radio presenter, you are now Gareth Cliff, go for it and act it. Oh my God, I would have lost my mind a long time ago,
and soap operas, right? I mean, like that's the only consistent work that a lot of actors in this country get. Now we mostly laugh about soap opera actors, and I feel bad for them because a lot of them put their work into this. They put their heart and soul into playing these roles, and some of them are very good, right? I mean, some soap opera actors have been playing the same character for so long that they basically bring that character to life, and it's a part of them. But the money's terrible, and at least it's consistent. So for a lot of actors and actresses, that's the thing that they want to do is have a soap opera gig because at least it's regular income.
Yeah.
Don't have anything else.
It's just the realities of where we live, G. I mean, it's so tough. I mean, the job market, etc. I just started thinking about it. I think every single market or industry that anybody studies, so if you study to become an actor, etc., it's really tough in that industry. If you want to play it safe and you want to say, oh my word, I'm going to go study to become an engineer and you think you'll be rock solid, doesn't work either. I know a lot of engineers.
And engineering is one of the jobs that they say to you, oh, there'll always be work for you. They're one of the careers. There's always going to be work for you in that,
Yeah, exactly. And I'll tell you a little academic truth that a lot of people, if you ask them, will tell you. A lot of people that study really technical degrees like engineering or accounting or whatever in the sciences, we honestly did it for the security and we just like filtered out all the risks. So like a lot of people don't become engineers because, oh my word, I love it. And like, I love calculus. No one loves calculus. That thing is hard and it hurts physically, right? The amount of pain that you go through. So nobody does it for, well, not nobody, but very few people do study those type of technical degrees for the love of it. We really just do it so we can get that security and build our lives.
You know how many people still go into studying a certain course or go into even a career just because they want their parents not to worry about them, or because they want to be able to provide for their parents, or they think that this is the thing that will impress other people. So many people who do well in an academic environment, and they've discovered, by the way, this is quite an obvious thing now, but it wasn't always obvious, that girls in general do better in a school environment than boys. And their marks are on average better than boys because boys really struggle to concentrate for a long time. We are mostly hyperactive. We need to be doing physical things. And this is a generalization because there are obviously girls who are like this too. But girls are better at sitting still, taking instructions, listening, and paying attention in class, where guys are just not good at that stuff. And a lot of guys and girls who do really well at school, because that's the system that they work best in, go on to study medicine, law, engineering. Those are the subjects that those people always take. And accounting, I'll throw accounting in there too. So those 4 directions are kind of, if you're clever at school and you get good marks, you do medicine, you do law, you do accounting. Those are the things that are open to you. And if you're not doing one of those, oh, well, you must be one of the less smart kids at school, which is nonsense. I mean, we all know that a proper entrepreneur, someone who really has, breakaway ideas and comes up with brilliant ways of changing the world through an invention or through creating a product or a service that people didn't have before. A lot of those people have no qualifications whatsoever. They would never be able to thrive in an academic situation. In fact, they can often be very disruptive in those situations. And we want everybody to fit, again, going back to this, everyone has fit the mold. Because that mold was built like by the school system 100 years ago. And this is the way that we measure whether people are smart or dumb. And it's just crazy. It's such a one-dimensional way of looking at the world. Here's Karen. She says, Gareth, I used to be a software analysis designer, and I used to do software analysis, design, and development. I've been a yoga teacher for the last 7 years, and I love it. That's a huge change. Wow, that's cool. Yeah. That is really cool. And again, if you said to your parents or your friends, "Oh, I'm going to go and become a yoga teacher," they'd go, "What the fuck?" They'd go, "What the fuck is wrong?
What are you doing? Are you okay? Is that a job?
You lost your mind?" Yeah.
They'll be like, with whose money? Where are you going to study that? With whose money? We're not funding that thing.
Right.
It's a hobby. Just you do it on weekends. It's not a job.
No, spot on. Cheryl says, I have to brag. My daughter has just been awarded the international law degree from a well-known law firm. I'm a very proud mom. Oh, that's awesome. Well done to you.
Okay.
Easy Picking says, calculus is interesting, and the reason why we can map anything on any plane. Yes. Oof. I mean, listen, I remember doing some of that stuff, but I only really clicked, and I've mentioned this before on the show, I only really clicked in maths in the final year of school. Up to then, I hated maths. I was shitty at it. I never really knew what was going on. I was lost. I was like on a little boat out at sea, and I had no idea how to make sense of all these things. Especially, geometry confused me, trigonometry confused me, algebra confused me. I was just, I was like, oh well, I'm just bad at this. And then I remember somewhere in the middle of matric, I sat down and I really worked hard at this, and I decided I'm gonna figure this out. I'm not an idiot, and I'm gonna put away all my preconceived ideas of this. And I just sat there for, I don't know, a couple of weeks, and I put my heart and soul into something. Like, I'm gonna work this shit out, and I'm gonna figure out whether I can do this or not. And it suddenly all started to fall into place, just because if I don't put an effort into things, and I don't think I'm unique. I think a lot of people are like this. We only love the stuff that we think we're good at. And if you think you're not good at something, you just don't love it. And then you never put any effort in, so you never become good at it. Yeah. But if you get rid of that and you decide, I actually want to do this, I really care about this, you open the doors. And I remember just suddenly it all became crystal clear. And I suddenly got really good at algebra, geometry, trigonometry. And I looked forward to those questions. I looked forward to those exams. I used to do, in my spare time, I would do these things. And I thought, wow, I'm into this. I mean, it only lasted half a year, but my marks went from like 53% to 70 something, just because I cared enough about it. It shows you how much you put an effort into something, you'll figure it out very quickly.
But can I also add to, like, it's how teachers also explain, because I noticed when it came to maths is that, like, grade 10, grade 11, I was like, oh, I understand. Oh, this is easy. It's because the teachers I got explained it to a point where I felt like, oh, okay, I can understand this. And then I got to matric, and then the teacher I got, he was just too theoretical about it. I was like, wait, what do you mean? How do I apply this? Like, how do I put this in everyday situation? And then the minute I understood, this is how you actually played out in real life, then I could be like, okay, maths is actually cool. Like accounting is not that bad. Like credit, debit, now I understand what you mean. When it starts playing out in real life. And I think that's one of the things that also plays a role in people liking certain things and not liking certain subjects. Because it's like, I don't understand this. Like, it doesn't make sense. And then people are like, I'll never use this. And you're like, but you use it every day.
This is never going to be useful to me, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah, like, and the minute you think like that, the minute you're like, I don't need this, it doesn't make sense, I'll never use it a day in my life. And then someone breaks it down and is like, you see the flooring in your house? Chief, that's maths. That's
correct. And suddenly you have to make something with your hands, and you're like, oh, I'm measuring and I'm dividing and I'm changing, figuring out the dimensions of this space.
Yes, and you're like, 90 degrees, this is what you mean. Okay.
You go to the hardware store because now you need to, redo your shower floor, and you're like, oh shit, I got to figure out the area. You're like doing calculations and shit, and you're like, the last time I did this was matric, but you needed it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. So Lesego's doing finance and acting. We figured that out and had a very roundabout conversation about that this morning. We got lots of other stuff to talk about. We'll get to some of the news headlines in just a moment or two. But why don't you also tell us what else is going on with you? Because we've checked in with your other two cohorts. You spoke earlier about Weza and Simpiro, and we spoke to both of them earlier this year, maybe even last year. You were the one that we needed to catch up with the most. Last time I saw you were wearing a suit. You were sitting in very important meetings. Is that the kind of thing that you do every day? Do you have to get dressed up? Are you going into the office, or are you working from home?
I've literally been working from home ever since COVID started. So I haven't even gone back to the office yet. I try to be authentic, right? So the background that you see right now is the background that everybody sees.
Right.
I couldn't be bothered anymore. I'm like, I'm in the kitchen, guys. I'm making coffee. It is what it is.
But at least
you're not even hiding it.
Doing it from the kitchen is a smart move, because then you can always just quickly switch the camera off, grab something from the fridge, or switch on the kettle. I mean, I can see all of the stuff going on in the background in your kitchen. It's quite convenient. I reckon working in the kitchen is very smart.
No, it's 100. Plus, you also get like claustrophobic, right? If you're in any closed room. So I like to work around everywhere.
But Simpiro says must be nice. It actually can be very frustrating to be working from home for this long. Luckily we get to go into the office, and Simpiro has pretty much been going into the office for the whole of lockdown. And it's good to separate work and home, because sometimes it's very, very hard to not sit there and answer emails if you're the kind of person who over delivers. But sometimes if you're the kind of person, you can get very lazy very quickly. You go, oh well, I can schedule this meeting for here and this one for here. I'll have a nap in between. That's not good. You would never be able to do that in the office.
No. Let me just tell you a fun fact. Actually, you guys must send Simpiro a message. It's actually his birthday today.
Okay.
Oh, what?
Yeah, Simpiro Petros. It's actually his birthday today. So I'm actually seeing him later.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys are all still friends. It's really nice that you all speak to each other. And just to clear up for people who don't know what we're talking about, this Simpiro who we've got in the studio here, this is Simpiro and Tetwa. This is our Simpiro who's been working with Central for a while.
It's not my birthday, guys.
We're talking about Lesego's friend and former co-presenter on Cliff Central, Simpiro Petros, who also started off as an engineer, and he's working in a very different world at the moment.
100%. I mean, he's a math and science teacher now. And he is over the moon. I mean, Simpiro has worked for Deloitte as a management consultant. He's worked for Transnet as an engineer, and he just said, "This is not for me. This environment is."
Wasn't he also doing something for Sass for a while?
For a bit, and then he just figured out that the environment was not for him, and he wanted an environment that was more collaborative, and because Simpiro is very heart-centered. Right, we're similar in that sense, in that we're very heart-centered, and he gets really great pleasure in actually taking kids who hated maths and science, and he literally sits down with them and says, "Listen, this thing is not difficult, it's time-consuming. There's a difference." And he just breaks it down.
So
and the joy that he gets.
We've come full circle. On his birthday, we're talking about him. I hope he's listening. But there's a guy who's actually changing it for people.
Yeah, 100%. Anyway, he's making the world a better place. on my side, I can tell you one thing. Working from home, I'm the same as you. I like to stay at home for a couple of days at a time and then go out into the world and interact with people.
Yep.
But once you're at home for a long time, cabin fever is what you get quite a lot of.
It's a big
And
problem.
I can confidently say now that I fully understand anxiety and well, not fully, but I understand anxiety and depression, because when you're always working from home, one, you get burnt out, right? Two, you just overworked because there's no more working hours now. You start from 6 and you end at like 10. Every time there's an email, you just get a bit of anxiety. You're like, what did I miss? What am I missing? What's happening?
Right.
And you work, and the level of burnout is insane.
Well, I think a lot of bosses and workers don't know where to draw the line. At least when you'd leave the office before. And I mean, a lot of this has to do with this always connected thing, where you've always got to be available. Your phone is always on. Your email, you must always answer. I do not respond to email on my phone, and I never have. It's been a rule of mine from the beginning. And it's part of what keeps me sane, because we do tend to throw around this depression and anxiety shit all the time. Like everyone is a little bit anxious or depressed or whatever. And there's part of that that's true. But I think we've lost the ability to manage our time in our lives.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some jobs where you have to be on call all the time, right? There's some very, very important and emergency and time-related jobs where you just don't really get to manage your time, because it's not really your own. Your job, part of being your job is being available all the time. And even those people at some point need to draw the line when they go on holiday or whatever, because they will burn out. But there's some businesses and some jobs, man, they want to smash every little drop of blood out of you, huh?
Dude, I've experienced some really toxic environments, and maybe not environments, but actually bosses. We keep on saying environment, but it's not true. It's just like the one person that you report to.
Yeah.
It's just bosses who think that your world revolves around work, and it doesn't. And very unsympathetic people in the world, and it's a bit mind-blowing. So if you have a really good boss and you enjoy going to work, huge privilege. Count your lucky stars, because I've learned that it's not the same for everyone. And I'm a very passionate person. When I work on a project, I put my all in. But some environment, they just want you to put it in and just drag you out, and it's just you slowly start to go downhill.
And especially if you're young and you're starting off in your first job, you think, well, this is how it is. This is how people. It's just horrible. You have to work your fingers to the bone. People are not going to give you time off. Nobody cares whether you're happy or not in your job.
Yeah.
If you have a horrible first boss, that's how you're going to think all work is. And your life's going to be pretty damn horrible from there on. I mean, it may teach you to be one of those people who's just, you can call him anytime. He'll do anything. And you may end up being more valuable in the job market, but you won't necessarily be happy, right?
No, not a chance. And in fact, don't be that person. Have very clear boundaries. Don't always be reliable. I mean, this is actually quite not reliable, but too reliable to be there all the time. And this sounds counterintuitive, but you need to be selfish. You need to be selfish to yourself. And it's not something that we've always been taught intrinsically, right?
It's so true. And it's
your
so
cup
true.
must run over.
And it's also about being selfish sometimes in a relationship. I see so many people and they give. And very often, it's not always the case, but very often the woman in the relationship, in a normal relationship, the woman is the one who's giving a lot, and the guy is the one who, he goes out and earns the money, but the woman is giving of her time and of her emotional support and all the rest of it. And then she has to also sometimes, if there are children, look after the children and all of that stuff. And women are programmed to be nurturing. Generally, again, this is a stereotype, but generally, they're a lot more nurturing than men. And they get into a position where they just get abused because they're giving. They never take. And if you're not a little bit selfish, because people think of selfishness as a bad thing, but if you don't look after yourself first and foremost, what are you going to have to give someone else? You've got to keep a little bit for you. You have to.
Yeah. No, you have to, because I mean, you are your number one biggest priority, right?
Uh-huh.
You are your number one biggest priority, and I think especially in relationships, because the dynamics are always so fluid, it's very difficult to try and maintain them and have a bit of a schedule because it doesn't always work. But it's okay sometimes to just say, no, you don't want to go out for dinner. It's actually okay to say sometimes I can't afford to go on a trip, especially now. Oh my word. Listen, socials are almost a cancer. Oh, guys. Not everybody goes on holiday every month, guys. It doesn't happen. Not everybody goes out for dinner every week. It doesn't happen.
I know. And you know, it also, like, we've got to learn, no matter how old you are, no matter how rich or poor you are, we all have to learn to just be able to say, no, I can't do this. I can't afford this. Or I don't feel like I should be doing this right now. I mean, I know people who are going on holiday often, right? Yeah. And I don't know how they can be doing that in a country where so many people are struggling. And also in a business where maybe once people realize they don't need you as much because you're away all the time, you're kind of talking yourself out of a job. If you're away all the time and you take a lot of leave, and people are eventually going to go, I don't know if we need that guy anymore. he's hardly around. I think we could do without him. Let's stop paying him.
I mean, I'm going to go to the other end of the spectrum. I don't know if you guys have been watching Ozark. So,
no.
Oh, you have to watch it. It's so brilliant. It's just basically about this guy.
Like season 2, season 3, somewhere it's like deep within now.
They're on season 4, but it is brilliant. And it's basically just about a guy who's an accountant that becomes a drug lord, basically. And from watching that, I see people go on holiday all the time.
Wasn't Breaking Bad about a teacher who becomes a drug maker? I mean,
yes.
So there's a lot of drugs that are suddenly the alternative career.
Career, just sell drugs. Wow. That's the moral of the story.
When I see people going on holiday all the time, I'm just thinking, there's some illicit funds going on here, because this does not make sense whatsoever. But I can tell you one thing that is interesting, though, G and Simpiro. Ever since working from home, one thing I have been able to do is connect with Home, which is Benoni. And I remember leaving Benoni and saying to myself, I'm never coming back to this place. I'm so done with this corner of the world.
Who hurt you?
Like,
what happened?
Leave me alone. And then I went back home in December. It's the first time in 10 years I spent a full December at home. And I realized, like, it clicked. I was like, this is what's Benoni, what people love about Benoni all the time. You know, we always make fun of people from Benoni, like they never leave.
Yes.
And I'm like, this is why they never leave. It's literally a utopia.
There's no place like home.
All right. Is that just because you're surrounded by people you know, and it's an environment that you really feel comfortable in? Because let's face it, I mean, Benoni is not like a tourist destination. No one's lining up together for it.
Don't say that.
Listen, I was the number one person like, with all my mates, I'd go back home and visit for like 2 days. And I'm like, why are you guys still here? Like, go out into the world and see the world and experience different things. And I can say this because I'm a proud Benonian, but a lot of people from Benoni, once they grow up in Benoni, they just never leave. And I'm like, why do you feel so stuck? And I came back and I just realized it's actually a utopia, and it is because of that. It's because you know everyone and you know all your mates and you feel safe and
right.
And nothing changes.
We need, a lot of people think they'll be happy if they go out and explore the world, but maybe your happiness is actually going back to your roots.
Yeah.
Oh yes. There's a quote that I recently learned.
Yeah.
And it said sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is leave them where they are. Like this whole thing of wanting to like get someone to change and grow with you and see the world for what it is. No. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just leave them where they are.
Well,
and they flourish.
Dogozo says, I literally felt the same way about KZN until I came back during lockdown. It's lovely out here. Yeah. And even, I mean, with the floods and the riots last year and everything else, I mean, if that's your home, that's your home. That's where you want to be. And Joking Atheist says, Gareth, maybe you should rephrase that. Selfishness is a little bit different from self-interest. I would think selfishness is self-interest, but at the expense of others around you. That's probably a good definition.
That is actually.
I think that's about right.
That is awesome.
Okay, couple of headlines first. We've got to look and talk about Eskom. I mean, you studied engineering. You must be sick of hearing this stuff. So Eskom is in an increasingly desperate state. This is from the Daily Friend this morning. There's little hope that South Africa will have a secure and reliable electricity supply for years. Yet there is seemingly little urgency from the government for fixing what is a major and binding constraint on the problem. Eskom has lost skills, it's highly indebted, the bulk of its coal-fired plants will need to be scrapped within the next decade or so, and it is not making plans for the future. There's no one thinking long-term at Eskom. The overriding problem is that it is not operating in a favorable environment. At every turn, the dead hand of government puts it under pressure when Eskom is deciding how it should do business, whom it should employ, and from whom it should buy. The government is also delaying regulatory approval for private renewable projects that will feed into the grid. So I think a lot of people don't realize how bad the situation is with Eskom. And as I said just a second ago, no one's really planning for 10, 20 years in advance. We've got these aging power stations that require massive, massive spending on maintenance. That decreases the amount that they could spend on new capital projects. And I don't know if you heard in the news just 2-3 weeks ago, there were people talking about how there are actually some of the people in the employ of Eskom who go in and throw stuff into the power machines to like jam them up and screw them up and break them because they have friends and family who have the contracts to fix those things. So there's actually wanton destruction. There's like someone who's gone in with the intention to destroy because they know the maintenance contract is going to make someone, or they're being paid to do it, who knows.
Yeah.
But this is something that they discovered at some of these plants. It's really bad.
So the one thing that I do know is because I've got a couple of mates that actually work for Eskom, a couple of engineers that work for Eskom, and they will tell you that like if you have a piece of job that you can do during the workday, let's say for 4 hours, they will stretch that out to like from 4 to like 10 hours because they get paid overtime as engineers. And sometimes the overtime they'll get paid will almost match their actual salary. So if you're getting paid like 20,000 Rand as an engineer, normal day to day, and if you're working like another 8 hours on your overtime per month, you just get like 40,000 Rand. So I know that's happening from my mates. I don't know, guys. Well, the Eskom one.
And we can get angry with those guys who are getting the overtime, but the fact is, like the system is not built to be efficient.
Yeah,
and we're allowing this to happen because the people who are in charge and making the decisions aren't thinking about efficiency. They're thinking about sheltered employment. They're thinking about contracts with suppliers. They're thinking about tenders. They're thinking about the stakeholders, which are usually just the government. What's the point? Nothing's going to work that way. Listen to this. Two guys, Ravender Singh, who's 50, and his son Andrew, who's 26, are directors of a Durban-based call center sub-user. They were nabbed on Wednesday last week in Joburg by police. The duo handed themselves in at the Hawks Serious Commercial Crime Investigation Court and were subsequently charged with fraud. On the same day, they appeared in the Palm Ridge Specialized Commercial Crimes Court and were granted 30,000 rands bail. So what did they do? Well, they were linked through a forensic investigation that was carried out by banks. This is your area of expertise again, which discovered that these guys had undue debit orders through the suspects' call center companies. The accused allegedly created fraudulent bank payment systems to collect debit orders for call centers, which resulted in unauthorized debit orders for millions of people. Numerous clients from several banks countrywide reportedly lost their hard-earned cash through a 99 Rand debit order withdrawn fraudulently between November of 2018 and February 2019. So they're going to go after them. But apparently the total here is a huge amount of money, some 18 million Rand that was taken in unauthorized debit orders. You got to check. You know, people don't do this because we're always so busy. But Lesego, you have to go through your bank statement and anything that looks suspicious, find out what it is. Get hold of your bank, say, what is this? Where does it come from? And cancel it if it's not you.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, the bank's payment system is, or the South African bank's payment system is very sophisticated. So I can understand how they're able to just like pick those up and get them. But from a consumer perspective, right? I mean, I work in a bank, but I'm a human before my banker. I can say even I don't go and really scrutinize every month by month because, and it's just a discipline that I just really need to get into the habit of. But I can understand why that would be possible. I mean, I'm probably one of the clients. I don't know. I need to go back the next 3 months and just like underline just 99 rand. Where?
Well, apparently, in Congo, Chris says here it's 99 rand so that the victim doesn't get an alert. Because if it's over 100 rand, you might get an alert on SMS. That's an interesting point. So if if it's less than 100, it slips under the system, and you don't really know.
No, but don't people have like their banking apps on their phone, so you get a notification of anything? Like I know with all my debit orders, when the 25th comes and they hit, I see that. Like I see the money go. Like it's like, I'm like, oh, okay, that's the car, that's the insurance, that's this, that's oh, now there's okay, so don't you guys no, maybe? Okay.
No, because those get annoying for me. I don't know about you, G. For me, those get annoying because like every time you swipe 2 rand, it's like
you know what? I set my limit at like 100 rand as well, so that if it's anything less than that, it doesn't come up. But I do go through my statements, not every month. I'll do it every couple of months, and then if there's something suspicious, I'll just say, "Hey, what's this for?" And they can usually tell you.
Yeah, I think the reason why I don't do it every month, because I do it like every 3 months, is I don't like looking at how much I spend. Like it's like you like there's horrible. The income, and then you see every single little dime, and you're like, okay, there was KFC 2 weeks in a row. Okay, we need to stop that now. And you're like, oh no, oh shucks, you spent 25 rand. Where? Oh, okay. Gosh.
Or you see something that's coming off as a debit order every month, and you're like, oh, do I really need that? You can't remember why you got it, but then you think, oh well, actually, I really like having that. Whether it's a gym membership or if it's I don't know, some kind of subscription that you've added to your list of things. Sometimes you need that stuff.
Yeah.
The one I hate the most for me is just medical aid. Sometimes I'll just look at the medical aid payments. I'm just like, well, I mean, I haven't even. I'm sure. So I'm like, you guys are a scam anyway. Comprehensive healthcare. I still have to go buy my asthma pump. I don't even know what I pay for. That one annoys me the most. And also, when you get your salary, I think the salary should just be a WhatsApp that just says same. Because I think that doesn't change, right? It's just same. Yeah.
All right. So here's another story. This is not going to make you feel too good this morning, but you need to know about it. This comes from News 24. Following flood damage to the railways in KwaZulu-Natal, transporting jet fuel from Durban to OR Tambo will likely be 100% restored only by the end of October.
So the airport, why so far?
Yeah. Because the railways are broken. So how else do you transport huge amounts of liquid aviation gas to the airport? The airport's currently suffering a shortage of fuel supplies. Currently, there are about 3.5 days supply. A supply of 5 or more days is usually regarded as comfortable, Access CEO Mpumi Mpofu said during a briefing on Monday afternoon. Due to a shortage of jet fuel supplies, 2 airlines have temporarily cancelled flights. One international airline cancelled operations from 24 April to 1st of May. A total of 14 flights and 3,150 passengers were impacted by that. Another airline cancelled its flight on the 24th of April, only impacting about 100 passengers. While overall stock levels are stable at OR Tambo, certain suppliers impacted by a declared force majeure, which means that's, it's obviously as a result of the flood, are still unable to acquire the quantities of jet fuel that they require. So just bear this in mind. It's not great, but if you are going to be booking a flight, it's not guaranteed that you're going to be able to get on that flight until at least October, when they can restore all the aviation fuel problems to 100%. It's not great. There's another reason to be a little bit pissed off this morning, but it's nobody's fault. I mean, nobody goes, oh, well, let's send a flood to KZN. That's what we want. And these things have created massive problems in supply chain.
Doesn't it mean that average plane tickets will increase though as well?
Yeah, that's probably true. That's probably going to happen. This is a sad story. We talk about debit orders. The singer Zahara, who stands to lose her home, has humbly asked her fans to donate money to her. This takes a massive, imagine how, your pride takes a massive backseat to this. But this poor woman, Zahara, who, I still listen to her famous song, which one? Loliwe.
Loliwe.
She's on my playlist. And I remember when she came out with that song, everybody's like, this woman is incredible and we love her and she's the next big thing. But she stands to have her Roodepoort townhouse auctioned on Saturday as a result of defaulting on her monthly installments of 17,665 rand. That's a lot of money a month. It's that's a big installment. The entertainment industry in South Africa has been rocked by lockdown. Obviously, that started in 2020. The country was declared to be under national state of disaster. You see, these are the things that nobody talks about. But we are aware in the back of our minds, like the entertainment industry took a massive smack. And according to the publication, that's City Press, Zahara has been struggling to pay a 1.9 million rand loan for a Roodepoort home. And Nedbank was reportedly set to auction off her home to the highest bidder. Horrible story. Imagine having to do that. So she's basically said, if you can help, please, and she's actually given out her private cell phone number and said, if anybody can help, I will tell you where to send donations. Apparently, she also said, I've got designer clothes, some that I've only worn once. I've started to approach people who own clothing stores to buy these things. When you go to visit Zahara, according to a friend, you don't feel like a visitor. You feel like you belong there. She deserves all the help she can get. So lots of people being nice about her. And you know what? Maybe there's a guardian angel who come to her rescue, but I do feel sorry for her. This is not a situation that anybody wants to be in. And of course, there are lots of not famous people who are also struggling, who can't necessarily ask for fans to give donations. But you think about entertainers. Here's a real life story. We've heard about so many people in the entertainment business who just commit suicide because they can't handle the financial pressures. So at least she's been, sensible enough. She swallowed her pride and she's decided she's going to ask for help.
That's
tough, man. That's horrible.
That's rough.
That's really horrible.
Yeah, there was a lady on Twitter. I think she was a Sangoma. And she also did like a thread recently about how she's losing everything, her house, her car. The only difference here is she didn't ask for anything. She was just like, I know I'm going to bounce back, but this is what's going on in my life, so bear with me. And then she was telling us that she's basically losing everything. And people were just like, wow, like, life is really happening for people. And as much as we're seeing everyone go on vacations, it's like the other side of the coin is people are going through it. Like they're not able to just keep to the day-to-day as they used to before. And that's the sad part.
I mean, here are 2 points of view from 2 different people in the comments. So first of all, Joking Atheist says, should banks, maybe there's a question for you, Lesego, should banks repossess homes from people who've paid off the greater part of the loan but have found themselves unable to keep up with current payments? I don't know. What do you think of that?
Question mark.
Okay. And then Sanella says, no, Gareth. This poor woman? Nah, bro. Zahara used to stunt on people and brag about how much money she has. In an interview she did at MacG, she lied and said she bought the house in cash. No donation here. See, again, if that's what she said, maybe people won't be so sympathetic. There are a lot of people in entertainment who they talk a big game, like, oh, I bought this cash. I've got so much money. And then when that isn't the case, they come out looking like liars and fools. Maybe that's also something to consider.
But I would say, though, I think a point that covers both, I think for me is, and I mean, it sounds so corny, but it's so true. I think we could all learn just to be kinder to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little kinder to each other.
Spot on.
A very young Lesego, when I started working, I thought I owned the world, right? And then you start to realize that, the more mature, that no, life is actually pretty tough and it's really hard. So I do feel for Zahara. I don't know her personally, obviously. I haven't been following her very closely, but we have ups and downs. And yes, it's not nice to be to brag or anything like that, but
sure.
Just be a bit kinder, a bit merciful to everyone. On the bank's one, guys, we have compliance for a reason. So I'm leaving that as a question mark.
Absolutely,
yeah. Right there. Again, because and why? Because I'm really trying to keep my job. I'm really trying to hold it.
Wait, I have
a question. I don't want to say
for
anything out of turn. Yeah.
And I think it's something that someone like once said to me is that you own the car or you own the house, right? Like, even though it's a monthly installment, the only thing the bank cares about is the money. Like, even if you're like, okay, here's the car, if it doesn't equate to how much you owe, they're just like, well, we still want the money back. Is that how it usually works? Is that like a good way to look at it? To be like, as long as if I have the cash, then it's still mine.
I mean, I prefer to think of it that way, because some people say, when you have a car, you have a home, but you're still paying off the bank fees. They're like, well, technically the bank actually owns it. I don't like looking at things that way, because you're the one that's using it. If it's your home, it's your special place. If it's a car, it's again your special place to go from A to B. But again, when you take that loan, you're signing a contract with the bank, right? And with all contracts, you try to meet your end of the bargain. So I like to keep it, I'd prefer to see it that way, actually, Simpiro, is that as long as you're shaking hands with the bank and you made a promise, as long as you can keep to that promise, then A-okay. And if you can't keep to that promise, then, talk to your banker, or go to the bank and talk to them. You'll find they're a lot more lenient than what people might perceive them to be.
Yeah, they if you leave them in the dark, then when the payment doesn't come through, they're going to do what they have to do, because they suddenly think, oh, well, this person is defaulting because they don't care. But if you go and talk to them, chances are they'll be able to help you figure out some kind of a plan.
100%.
People are sometimes too afraid to just acknowledge and deal with the problem, so they let it fester in the background. And you know what? If you're the bank, you're going to say, oh, well, 3 months have gone by. This person hasn't made a payment. We've got to get our money now. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's how it works. And there are lots of people here talking about, loans and repaying them. And you've got to realize, when you sign a contract like that with a financial institution, you are taking that responsibility on. You can't suddenly default from it and then they're the bad guy. In America at the moment, they're talking about getting rid of student debt. And you can't just get rid of debt. You can't just write off, millions of dollars in student debt just because there are a lot of people who owe money for university educations that sometimes worked out for them, sometimes didn't. If you signed up for that deal, you can't expect the taxpayer to come in and rescue you. That means those people who didn't go to university are suddenly subsidizing the people who did, which is perverse, because the people who did go to university are usually more privileged than the people who didn't. So how can you expect those people to now pay for your studies? It's crazy, right?
It gets complex. Yeah, it gets complex very quick, because now it becomes socioeconomics, right? It's not just economics, but socioeconomics, and it affects everybody everywhere. And I mean, one way or another, we're all like linked into this financial socioeconomics banking system. So we also need to be very prudent about it. There's also why banks, out of most industries, are probably the most regulated industry, because very regulated.
One of the things that saved us in 2008 from the global financial crisis was the fact that our banks actually had huge compliance, and there were all kinds of checks and balances. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still look at the major banks in this country and think, they've got a bit of a chokehold on things in some ways, but they are forced to comply with many regulatory frameworks. And there are plenty of things that you have to do in order to be a licensed financial institution in South Africa, which in any other part of the world, you might not have to have so many rules.
100%. And very interestingly, guys, I don't want to deviate, but this is one of the realities of working from home. The sun is like directly in my eyes. Can you see it now?
We can see you.
Suddenly you're glowing.
Oh, yeah. That's that. Where's my selfie?
It's golden hour in Lesego's house.
Let me go close the curtain for 2 seconds, please.
Yeah, go for it. No, go for it. Go and sort out the curtain. So we've got two guests joining us a little later on. This could be really, really exciting. So Space Hero. Have you ever heard of Space Hero?
No.
All right, so let me tell you about this. Space Hero is the world's first ever global competition series where contestants will compete for a $55 million 10-day trip to space, which is the biggest prize ever awarded on TV. So I thought when I first read this, this is a bullshit thing. There's no way. So it's a once-in-a-lifetime journey. It'll be open to anyone over 18 who can speak English.
Okay,
it is a biannual competition. Listen to this. It provides for people from all walks of life the chance to compete and select one of their peers for a mission to space. This is absolutely amazing for those people who crave adventure, who feel like they want to get out there and explore the universe. This could be your first step in that direction, right? So they're making a TV show out of it, which is currently in pre-production. It's a reality TV format. They've got 24 contestants who are competing for a grand prize of a ticket aboard a spaceship bound for the International Space Station. Those 24 contestants from all over the world will live in a space village here on Earth during the filming of the show, and they plan to feature space technologies developed by dozens of nations with space agencies. And they're going to test the participants' physical and mental strength in preparation for space flight. Because as you know, you have to be in unbelievable condition to be able to go into space, because it's tough on the body, it's tough on the mind.
Sure.
And it could be the most amazing prize. So we're going to speak to two people who are going to explain to us just how this works and whether or not it's for real. Because if you ask me, like, I heard this story and Dory told me about it when she was putting the show together. I said to her, nah, this sounds like a scam. Because, there are all these things where we could give you a house and a car worth X million rand. This is amazing. It's a very expensive prize. There are only a few people in the world. You could probably fit them on one A4 page, all the names of the people who've actually been into space. And we know all these billionaires who did it last year and the year before, right? Elon Musk did it, and Jeff Bezos did it. And we know that Richard Branson went up into the upper atmosphere. So there are very few people in the world who get to do this stuff. And if this is a real prize, and we'll find out if it is, it could be something you're really interested in. And they're taking people from all over the world. So might be something you want to join in on and try. Who knows? You might just win it.
Would you guys go to space?
No.
If you had the opportunity?
Not for me. I have no desire, but I'll tell you what, there are lots of people who would. I know 20 people just off the top of my head who would love to do this. They would be jumping at the chance to go to space. But me, no, you can skip me on this one.
I would say the PR to going to space is starting to look good. I mean, all these billionaires are making it look like it's the new it thing. You know what I mean? Like, you also want to be that girl who's like, oh yeah, space. I've been there. What do you mean? I was just there the other day. Like, it just sounds like a nice flex.
Well, Joking Atheist says, I would love to go to space. So I guess it's time to pull out the pot. Yeah, listen. Space is very tough on the mind, says Parallel Parking, because once you get up there, you discover that we're not actually, and then it runs out of words. Alone, maybe? I don't know. I'd go to space when I have nothing left to do on this world. It'll be the last thing on my list, says lovely Lady Lee.
I'm with her there, actually. I'm with her.
Yeah,
I'm just saying the PR on space is looking quite nice, guys. Before you know it, it's going to be a chat.
People will know your name. And also, I'd be curious to watch this show and see what kind of training and orientation and skills and things they have to develop before you can go to space. I think that would be quite cool. Somebody says here that you can do space on Earth. Mike Tyson does it all the time. It's called 20 grams of mushrooms. Oh, wow.
You don't want to be seeing things now.
Yeah.
That's the only issue.
Yonda says, I would love to go to space. Any chance I get. It's been a dream of mine. You see, so there are people who really do want to go.
Yeah.
That's amazing. All right. Very, very good. We need to also, according to Hugo, this is a very good reminder, we need to like and subscribe. The show is not even advertised today by YouTube, and I had to search for it. Hugo, that's a good reminder. Please, everybody, do the like and subscribe thing because otherwise, the algorithms don't kick us to the top, and that makes it a waste of time. So let's get on with it and do this. Please, 5 seconds of your time, like and subscribe. Make sure everybody else does it too. And if you watch us live in the mornings, even more reason to do so. If you listen to the podcast, then this is just an annoyance for you. But please, go ahead. And also, leave a nice review if you do those on the various podcast apps, because that also helps to push us to the top. And we need to keep on top of these things. Otherwise, how am I going to afford to go to space? How are we going to afford to send Simpiro to space? Right?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Absolutely.
I need to come back and tell you all about it.
Yeah, correct. When we come back, speaking of coming back, it's 7:00 now. We will have a whole lot more, including trips to space. And Lesego Maphanga as our guest host this morning. Simpiro Mtetwa, it's me, you, and everybody else. Don't go anywhere.
Up next in the Auto Trader podcast.
I mean, I think car trackers are like insurance. They're a grudge purchase.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think you've got to assess your level of risk to put a tracking device in. So how likely is your car to get stolen?
Yeah.
And then you've got to ask yourself, if it does get stolen, do you want it back?
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
Do you suffer from collectivism?
I started collecting when I was about 8 years old.
Do you have an obsession with objects?
I sort of got into collecting TV cars.
Are you a fanatic? A devotee? Are you someone exhibiting enthusiasm or strong passion?
When lockdown hit, when everyone was kind of bored at home, they started Googling, like, what are these things worth these days?
Cliff Central dispenses a weekly dose of collectomania. Join me as I talk to compulsive collectors. Fascinating.
The frame's total value is probably about 12,000 Rand.
Possibly a little weird.
I developed this infatuation with the Statue of Liberty.
Collectomania, Mondays on the Gareth Cliff Show. Brought to you by SA Gold Coin Exchange and the Scoin Shop. Yes, indeed. That is Collectomania. You don't want to miss that every single Monday. And we've actually got a fascinating guest coming up this Monday. We've got some really interesting collections. If you know anybody who has a collection and who collects cool things, weird things, valuable things, then let us know about it. contact@cliffcentral.com. We do want to hear from you, and that's also the email address for anything else to do with the show. Let us know. contact@cliffcentral.com. What are you cleaning there, Lesego? Your glasses. What's going on there? Oh, look at that. Makes you look very smart.
It looks very deceiving, yeah.
Yeah. Another way some people think when they put on glasses, they're suddenly way smarter. You'd see some people, it's purely cosmetic, because if you put on their glasses, you can see exactly the same thing through them, so you know that it's not their eyes. No, it used to be a thing. Like some people in some professions, they want to seem like they're smarter than they are, so they put on glasses, fake ones.
Oh no, they're. I mean, just that. I think it's a terrible life to live.
Oh no,
if you have to do that.
Oh please, I wouldn't go to that trouble. Only reason I have glasses, and I hardly ever wear them. I wear them when I sit in front of a computer screen all day, or if I have to drive at night or whatever, then I'll put them on. But they sit here. I'd hardly put them on. I mean, if I'm just doing stuff like this, they sit here. You've never seen them, right, Simpiro?
Yeah, you wear glasses? Wow.
It's astigmatism. I actually went for a test at the optometrist earlier this year, and because I was worried about like that bloodshot eye that I had, remember?
Yes.
And so I did all the tests and things, and the guy said to me, no, you're actually okay. You won't have to come back for another 5 to 10 years if you're lucky. So hopefully that's the case. Yeah, but it's a slight what they talk about there is a bit of a strange shape to the eyeball. It's meant to be perfectly round, but if it isn't perfectly round, then they call it an astigmatism, and it means that normally one eye is better than the other, so you rely on the one more than the other one. And all this does with the glasses, it kind of corrects for that slightly.
Yeah,
but it's not a big deal.
You don't have perfect curvature on your one eye, so the
Correct.
way the light comes in and refracts is different. Yeah,
correct. So when I put those on, it just makes like looking at a screen for a long time a little bit more doable. So Lesego, just quickly, because you're a guy who's in finance, and we've been talking about this all week. I also spoke last week to a couple of people who are very confused about where to put your money at the moment. And I mean, you're not going to give us financial advice, but I was looking at Bitcoin. I was looking at Bitcoin this morning, $31,213. Not great. It's kind of lost a huge amount of its value. And for anybody who's invested, and I have been for a long time, not a huge amount of money either, but just enough to hurt when it drops like this. The US stock market's been useless. Anybody who's invested there for the last 3 months is in deep shit as well. South African stock market, not great either. And people are they're moaning. Hey, people are complaining because they're feeling it. Yeah. The only place there's been slight increases has been in like gold, which is never a good sign.
No. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of people are going there because they feel it's just safest. I'm very risk averse. I'm extremely risk averse when it comes to finances, and it's probably just because like the relationship that I have with money. But we can have a whole show about that. So for me, literally, I literally stick to the basics. I don't try to be clever. I probably have about 20% of money in crypto investments. Maybe let's say about 50% into the normal fiat stuff, and then literally the rest is just in savings investments in my bank. And then obviously you have things like stokvels that we have. So I got the Benoni boys stokvel. So we do things like that. And literally just because I'm so risk averse, because I've seen so many people try to be clever with their money and it just blows back in their faces. But what I do try to do is at least just try, for me, the emphasis is on just getting multiple streams of income. So, I mean, I've got I've got a rental apartment. I've got the acting gigs as well. So I'm literally just trying to build those multiple streams of income and at least try to stabilize them so that I know exactly how much is coming in every month. And for me, keep it simple. The simpler you keep it, the better.
Yeah, I think that is very, you're not, let's just be clear, you're not here to give financial advice, but I think there are a lot of us who are risk averse, and we look at all this stuff going on around us and we go, I wouldn't even know where to start. You know? This can get so confusing so quickly.
It can get so complex. So, I mean, I don't even get the whole scope of it myself. And I'm learning every single day because new instruments come in every single day. There's new things coming. I mean, cryptos, there's so many of those coming in. And just the question of which crypto to invest in is like a science on its own. Well, so literally,
we speak to the guys from Revix who have been clients of ours for a long time, and a lot of us have started the journey with Revix, and we've got a small amount of money or a big amount of money with them, and it's just it's so frustrating because on the good months you love it and you think, oh, this is such a great thing, I'm so glad, I'm so proud of myself for getting involved in this. In the bad months, you look at that balance and you're like, what? I've just lost half the money I put in there,
Yeah.
So you also have to, and all the best investors in the world, they use two maxims. They first of all say, you never cash out when you've made a loss, because then you realize that loss. And rather just keep your money on that thing until hopefully it goes up, which over a long period of time it will usually, and unless it's a complete stupid investment. And all of us hope we haven't made those. And the other thing they say is that when everybody else is greedy, be fearful. When everyone else is fearful, be greedy. So you kind of have to move in the opposite way to the market, which again is counterintuitive. Brilliant investors, people who know way more than me, know that when the price of something is down, you should be buying more of it in the hopes that it obviously will go up. which none of us feel like doing because we're like, no, but I'm already down on that one. That's when you buy some more.
Anyway, they call it, what is it? Investment is blood on the street. That's when you invest.
Right, exactly.
Such a morbid way to think about it, actually.
Right.
And one thing for me, because of that exact thing, I only look at my investments like once every 3 months.
Mm-hmm. That's
what I do.
Way to do it. If you look every day, you're going to go crazy. Yeah.
No, you're going to go crazy. My heart can't take it. Like, my heart will stop. No. It's like I just made it out of Benoni, and now like I'm losing my money, and I want to go back and playing
Well, Congo Chris says, when in doubt, zoom out. Hodl, which is hold. I hear you. That's also a sensible way to go about things. We're also saying buy copper. I don't know about that. I don't know enough about how you trade in metals. I'm not going to pretend to know the first thing about it. It's like these people, you go onto social media now and you see a whole lot of people who just the other day were Instagram models and now they're suddenly commodities traders. You're like, no.
Don't trust it. I can smell scare.
The moment I see anybody screenshotting like transactions, I get very suspicious. If anybody's got a screenshot of like, this is how much was paid into my account yesterday, I'm like, I don't believe you. I don't believe anything you say. You've just ruined your credibility because nobody who's in real business will ever do that. First of all, you don't think SARS looks at that stuff? So if you just got a deposit of 900,000 Rand out of nowhere and you take a screenshot of that and you put it on your Instagram, you think someone from SARS isn't going to see that and ask, you got 900,000 Rand. I think we're entitled to about 250 to 400,000 of that. Thank you very much. What are people stupid?
Well, clearly they are because they fall for the ask me how.
And maybe there are lots of people are taken in by this. You often see these people like posing next to sports cars and they're like, well, if you want to be rich and successful like me, then all you need to do is deposit this amount of money into my account and I'll show you how to make it bigger. You're like, please, can you not tell that this is a scam? You not see? It's one thing to be taken in. It's one thing to be taken in by an investment that maybe doesn't give you the returns that they promise. But if you actually fall for that stuff, you kind of deserve it, don't you think?
Yeah.
That's so brutal.
It's true though.
You do. You want to get rich quick schemes. That's the issue. Yeah. It's like you want to take your 100 Rand to 1,000 Rand in like 24 hours, and then you want to be, you want to take that 1,000 into 10,000 within 3 days, and it's just like that's unheard of. That's unheard of. Like what? Yeah. Excuse me.
No. So I'll tell you the couple that annoy me the most is when this is happening back in varsity when mates of mine would invite me to like these random like gatherings in like a hotel somewhere, and it used to be those pyramid schemes where you can't take a photo, you can't do anything, and I'm like, first of all, I am a student, so I don't even have money to invest with you. Let's just stop there. Right. So wrong target market. But now the thing that really irks me is what Simpiro was talking about now. When people want to get, they want to hype up something that's not real. These herbal life oaks. Oh my God!
Ask me how. That's their slogan. Ask me how.
Right.
I mean, first of all, let's get a couple things straight. Right? Gym sucks. Right? It sucks. Nope. It hurts. It's painful. The results are great, but don't come to me and be like, "Oh my word! Look at this great pink shake. Going to gym. It's a fantastic day." No, it's not. It hurts.
Also, Lesego, if you are going to sell me some product, whether it's a pill or a financial scheme or whatever it is, and you're so rich and you're so successful, how come you're still living with your parents? Right? Who am I meant to believe here? Yeah. I mean, just do a little bit of research and you'll figure out that this is all bullshit. But there are a lot of people who are into this, huh? These herbal things, these pyramid schemes, these
yes.
If you recruit this many people, then you can be as rich as me. And I mean, it works for the guy who starts the thing and who's able to convince a whole lot of other stupid people to join, but it never works out for anyone who comes in any later.
But you know where they get you? They get you at the do you want to be financially independent? Do you want to own your own hours? And you're like, yes, I do. I want to make, do you want to make 6 figures? Well, you can start a business today. And you're like, okay, tell me more. And then they're like, so if you sign up with us and then you get 3 other people, you're like, hold up, whoa. And they're like, you can either buy the products or you can get it. And you're like, okay, now this is sounding dodge. Why do I need to sign up? And they're like, sign up 20 people. And once you've gotten 20 people, you'll be able to see the returns, just like our top 5 investors. Look at them. They all started off in retail and they all started out from nothing and they're making 6 figures every month. This can be you. And you're like, that's how they get you.
And as you say, those questions, ask me how. That's how they do it. It's also, how different is that to these people who promise you that they can, the ones on the posters, there's like a sangoma who says, oh, I can help you with your sex life. Just give me a call on this number and you send me a message to this number and also include like an e-wallet of 500 Rand, and then I will help you solve your sex life problems, or I will help you solve your financial issues, or I will help you get back at that bad ex, or whatever it is. If you fall for that stuff, you kind of deserve it.
Yeah, especially the sangoma with the sex life. I'm just like, you've never met me. You don't know what the issue is. You don't know who has the issue. I must just send you 500 already, just as a... Is that like what the vulamlomo of, the sex life? Like, I don't know. Like,
right.
Guys. And then they're going to give you something in like a Coca-Cola bottle that you have to drink. And you just are like, what's this? How is this helping me medically? No.
Mohau says, network marketing people is the more accepted term. Yes, but it's basically a pyramid scheme. Network marketing. He's right, though.
Yeah, he is right. He's right.
Robin says, Herbalife is the shit. If I was rich, I would be their top customer or rep. Well, go ahead, Robin. You go for it.
Do it. I'm not going to knock your hustle. I'm definitely... Do what makes you happy, what makes you money. Like, if you become a millionaire, trillionaire tomorrow because of it, great. I just don't want to be part of that story.
Talk about like get rich quick schemes. Easy Picking says you must go to the scrapyard and collect copper. It's worth it's worth a lot of money. See, now we've got people who want to go to the scrapyard and collect like old bits of metal. Really, this is terrible. This is terrible. I'm not going to take any advice from anybody. Ooh, Powerball was apparently 100 million Rand last night, so it could happen. Yeah, again, like people who are just, we're all hoping that it's us, but that's probably not me, you, or anyone else. Sorry, guys.
The mere fact that I don't even play it, but in my mind, every time I hear 100 million, that could have been me, and I'm like, I didn't even, I didn't even try my luck. I was like, hey,
can I say something? I mean, I play it now and then when I see the commercials, and I'll go into like my app and I'll play like one ticket. I'll just like. Because for me, if it's my luck, it's my luck. So whether I buy 1 ticket or 20, I know mathematics doesn't make sense. But for me, I'm like, if it's my luck, it's my luck. 1 ticket, I'll win. And I think the most I've won is maybe like 17 Rand. It's clearly not for me.
That's very depressing. You know what else is depressing? Is these things that people use. And there was a story in the news about this wedding vehicle. Simpiro knows about this. Somebody used a truck as the vehicle for their wedding. People always trying to get some cool, different, fancy, expensive cars or whatever. So look at this quickly. This is the truck. It's used for and they're sitting in the front of a bulldozer, effectively. A bulldozer, and this is what they're sitting in, the front of a bulldozer. That was their wedding vehicle. Only in Africa, we love this continent, but my God.
But I don't, I've seen an array of cars being picked as the wedding car.
Mm-hmm.
Never in my wildest dreams, in my imagination, did I ever think a truck like. I'm just like, no, like a whole truck. And then they sat where, and then they're like, let's go up, let's go down. No, what? Are we at Gold Reef and we just.
And then they decorated it. They decorated it as well. You know what I reckon? I have a theory. We spoke about it today on the show. I reckon that guy should have had more self-interest in that maybe he didn't want to get married, and his wife was just like, no, we're definitely getting married, and we're getting married next week, and I don't care what happens, and just make it happen. So that's my theory. That's how it makes sense in my mind.
No, when I saw that, the only thing that came to mind was this your perfect wedding? Like,
wedding.
Is this always been your dream? Like, all my life, all I wanted to do was get married and be in a truck. Like, in the truck.
Lovely lady Lee says, I'm so happy for them. So there are people who are happy. Congo Chris says, that looks like fun. Okay.
It does. But I thought it was interesting.
Somebody else here, Parallel Parking says, the mother-in-law is driving that bulldozer to the nearest dump. I do love it. At least they're different. The reason we're talking about them is because they did something that no one else is doing. So not the end of the world, not the worst thing.
I love
All
it.
Right.
Like,
speaking of doing something that nobody else is doing, I mentioned this a little while ago because I'm really excited to speak to these people. We're going to speak to Thomas Reemer and to Deborah Sass in just a moment about Space Hero. Now, you may be one of those people, and we saw lots of comments when we were talking about this earlier, who desperately want to go to space. Going to space is your biggest dream. It's also the biggest dream of so many billionaires. I mean, you see, in the last year, we've had 3 of the world's most famous billionaires go up into the upper atmosphere, out into space, see the world from as high up as you possibly can, and then come down again safely. It's something that they want to spend their hard-earned money on. So it's probably something you wish you could do too, but not very many of us have the chance to go into space. Well, that might be changing. The world's biggest ever prize on TV, a $55 million 10-day trip to space, is up for grabs. And I think this could be something that a lot of people are interested in. Now, I immediately thought, no, this sounds too good to be true. So I want to speak to the people who are behind it and people who can give us some info about this. And they are on the show with us this morning. Thomas Reemer, nice to see you. And Deborah Sass, good to have you both on the show. How are you?
Very well. Thank you very much. All the best to South Africa. Hi.
Thank you,
All
guys.
All the best to South Africa from Ibiza.
Nice.
Right. Well, now listen. You two need to just allay my fears, because the first thing I thought when I saw this is too good to be true. There's no way that anyone is going to win a trip to space. I remember everybody competing to go to Mars, which is probably never going to happen. And I looked at this and I thought, to go on a trip to the International Space Station, that may be someone's biggest dream, but how possible is it? So tell me the truth. Is this just, the build up to a reality TV show and it's all hype and PR, or is this a real thing?
It's both, actually, right? It is the build up to a TV show. So you're absolutely spot on with that. Mm-hmm. The global competition series that we are building, right, will go on every 2 years from now on. We will start in 2023. And the world needs a new peaceful global competition, because some of the old properties that we have, have really run their course, right? When you look at all the discussions surrounding the Olympics with, doping and corruption and gender partition, these things can be done differently. We have technology these days that allows very different challenges. And the reason you give people to really compete is the ultimate thing. It is a trip to space. And yes, it is real, right? We are talking to the one launcher that is existing in the United States that, sends people into space. And we are very, very far advanced. We have the source of funds. Everything's fine. So we are lined up to make it happen. And don't mistake this for a kind of an idea or just an idea. We've been working on this diligently for the past 4 years. It's a long time, and the idea is way older, right? But it takes time to make this happen because you're creating a completely new sports series for the whole world.
Sounds amazing. Deborah, you must have also thought when you heard about this for the first time and when you guys started to develop this, that this is too good to be true. It's happening, and according to Thomas, it is real. So who can enter? I mean, is this open to anybody? Can someone in South Africa end up winning this prize?
First of all, good morning, Gareth, from a sunny farm in Ibiza. And
Nice.
when Thomas rang me 5 years ago, he said one thing to me, and I'd known Thomas for 15 years. He said, Debs, come and help me launch Space Hero. And I said, what Space Hero? And he said, it's a global casting show. Global, yes, anybody in South Africa or around the world can enter. It's a global casting show giving away the biggest prize, as you said, on television, a $55 million ticket to go to space. And he actually said the ISS. And I was like, fuck me, this is amazing. Sign me up. Like, I've only got one question. And he goes, what? And I go, what's the ISS?
Yeah, right.
Because I knew nothing about space. And I didn't know the ISS was the International Space Station. But Gareth, we have now pushed it after 4 years of working on it. We're actually going to go on a free flyer around the Earth because it's kind of cooler than going to the lab in the sky.
Yeah, and also the International Space Station is pretty busy. I mean, as far as I can tell, they've got a schedule of experiments. They've got serious science. They don't want to have some tourist up there wasting their time. I mean, it could be
very spot on the observation, because when you look at it from the inside, right? How can you entertain people to watch this in a live stream for 5 or 6 or 7 days when all you see is a lab, right? It's not possible.
Right. And I mean, there's also limited space. And it's being paid for by governments of the world. So we don't really want to waste any of their time with an entertainment show, even though it might bring more people into the world of space and into the exciting subjects that they are busy researching up there. So, all right, it's open to anybody, but going to space is not for anybody because you have to be in pretty good physical and mental health. You have to be in a position where you can dedicate and devote this kind of time, and it's going to take a long time to prepare people for this. So what sort of activities, you talk about it being a global casting show, what sort of things are we going to be doing for these 24 contestants in the run-up to actually going to space? Because there are going to be 23 people who are going to be disappointed. How are you going to choose who that final person is who makes it?
There will be hopefully millions of people that will be disappointed, and I see this with my heart. But can you balance an egg on a spoon? That's a challenge, and it's absolutely true, right? And I want to give this back to the panel here because we've been tuning in a bit before this show, and I love the banter that you guys had, right? So let's ask you guys: would you go to space? Tell us.
Lesego, you go first.
I am so frightened of the unknown. I'm so frightened of the unknown. And that's just me being extremely risk averse. So for me, I'd like to see, a Gareth go out there, see what goes wrong, and then I'll follow after that.
I'm afraid I'm kind of I'm on the same page as him. Look, I've got enough to keep me busy here on Earth. I'm curious about space. I'm fascinated by a lot to do with space, but do I actually want to go there myself? I'm 50-50. I'm probably not a contestant on your show. Simpiro, how about you?
Well, there's something about the billionaires liking this place that's also making me be like, maybe I also need to just warm up to it, honey. Maybe I need to also just vlog, and be like, hi guys, welcome back to my channel. And I was just in space the other day. Let me show you what I saw. That's just me. I think the PR on it is getting me like, I would, maybe, yes.
So you got 1 out of 3, but then we're not the target market here. I mean, let me go to the comments, because Chris says, yes, I would, fit and ready. Moonchild says, yes, I would go to space. We had 3 or 4 people earlier in the comments saying, I would love to go. And somebody else here says, please send up at least one flat earther so they can see.
This person's not joking, right? Because when you look at the history of people that have flown to space, you've seen a lot of people that have been picked by governments, right? Because governments have paid for them. So they were like pilots and scientists and, all sorts of double PhDs. But you never really had a connection with them because you get to know them after they come back.
Right.
And Space Hero reverses that, right? You get to know the people that are going before they go. And so you establish this emotional connection. You understand who they are. And ultimately, whatever they will tell you about their experience in space will have a meaning to a lot of people on this planet. And when you say, Gareth, you've got enough to do on this planet here, rather than looking into space, that's absolutely true. And we use it like that too, because space is only 1% of what Space Hero is, right? The other 99%, it really happens on Earth. And everything that you talk about, in regards to technology that is developed for space. Space is a hostile environment, right? There's no oxygen, there is strong radiation, you can't dispose of waste, and there's no water. So, every technology that is developed for that place will help us in the future for our own survival on planet Earth. And that's what we want to highlight too.
One of the questions Gary wants to ask here is, you guys don't mention anything about coming back from space.
That's hilarious.
Gareth, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Thomas. Thank you. Gareth, you talk about what are the criteria for going. Let's talk to your audience directly and let's tell them what's going to happen. We're going to launch the Space Hero app. It's going to be free for everybody in the world. Behind the scenes, we are already in 85 countries with, let's call them early adopters, people that love space. Space is hot right now. We all know that it's in our mainstream press, which has never happened before in our lifetimes. So what do you need to do? You need to be over 18 to fly, not to apply. And it's a long process. So you could apply and then be 18 if you were to actually fly. You need to have a basic level of English. And the most interesting part that Thomas and I have spent years in consultation with NASA and SpaceX and Boeing and all the other big space companies is you do not need to have a PhD. You do not need to be an astronaut. You do not need to have military flying time, which is what Space Hero is about. We are democratizing access to the most inaccessible business in the world because we're saying to you, you can all apply. Doesn't matter if you're a bit chubby, doesn't matter if you're deaf, doesn't matter if you're blind, doesn't matter if you have no big education. If you have some passion, you can apply and potentially we'll train you. We will train you properly to go. And it's not as difficult or exclusive as what the industry has led us to believe. In fact, anybody can apply.
Sounds absolutely incredible. Obviously, there are challenges involved here too. First of all, where will this be for the rest of us who are not going to enter or win? I mean, that's the majority of us. Are we going to see this on TV, or is it going to be a YouTube channel? Have you guys sorted out kind of where this show will go? And when are we looking to go live? When is it all going to happen?
We're sorting this as we speak, right? So it took us a while to secure the mission because securing a mission really is a rare thing. There are only 2 missions available every year. And when you look at how many people fly every year, right, into orbit, not suborbital, then you're looking at an exclusive group of, 10, 12, 14 people only. And from next year onwards, there will be 3 of our people flying. And that is a big achievement for us, right? So we are now approaching everything that has to do with distribution. Yes, you might want to believe that this is a big event in any event calendar, and it will have the appropriate media coverage. That's no doubt. We will have an app where you can apply it, and the app will also double up as a content channel for the audience to watch the first part of the show, which is the application phase, right? Because you want to get to know the people that really want to fly, and then you want to vote on who you think is the most eligible one to be amongst the last 24. And when we have the last 24 from all over the world, we'll bring them together at a place called the Space Village. And that is the place where, for 3.5 months, they will compete. They will have to face the judges, which will be, astronauts, scientists, athletes, celebrities, etc. And they'll face the audience to see, who really becomes eligible to go into proper training.
All right. So somebody's asking here, I think somebody said, can you be fat? You said you could be fat. Can you apply if you're fat? Because
when I say fat, I mean you need to be able to fit into the chairs, right? And we've all seen those chairs on those missions that have gone to the ISS. Right. They ain't that big.
So, okay, you can't be like morbidly obese and think that there's going to be space for you, but there is a way for people, ordinary people, to get onto this thing. All right, so
absolutely,
you're going to have.
Well, the obese part is interesting because if you are morbidly obese, right, people will understand that this will have an impact on your heart rate, and the heart rate is an important factor to be healthy enough to fly to space.
You said 18. Why the English requirement? Is that so we can communicate with you and people can understand you? Because if you don't speak English, it's going to be very difficult to kind of create this content and also to train you to go to space. Is that it?
Correct. So it's not actually us putting these restrictions. If it was up to us, there'd be 0 restrictions, no barrier to entry. But the international space standard is 18 and basic level of English. English is the language of space. Who knew?
Yeah, there we go. All right. So what do they do in the Space Village? What are they going to do for those weeks up to when we find out who the person is who's going? Because that's obviously going to be the majority of the time, and we're going to get to know these people. But what sorts of activities are they doing?
So you have to imagine, right, who these people are that are coming together there. You have a wild mix of people that have been already elected, right, by their countries, by the global population to be amongst the last 24 finalists. And we are looking forward to 2 things, right? They will have to do the challenges. So we call it training light, training for entertainment, right? So we had to look at what this training really includes, and is it interesting for people to watch that, right? We have about 150 challenges that we can choose from, and we will pick the best ones, right, to make those 12 weeks really, really entertaining. And then you have a really interesting schedule of rankings and nice twists that we've built into the usual casting show format, because ultimately this is not about competing against each other, right? In space, you need to cooperate. And how do you stand out from the group to be able to win, but cooperate with everybody at the same time, right? It's a challenge for you as a contestant. It's ultimately about understanding why you're there, and the audience will feel that. And that's why it's an interesting process for people to watch, because at the end of the day, only one person can fly, and that means that you have to give up your nationalistic, emotion first, and then you have to fall in love with somebody that you support regardless.
So you guys have definitely got people's attention. Corona's Boring says, I won't lie, these 2 look like they're part of some intergalactic council. Really believably dressed for this. I have to agree, Thomas. You guys do look like you're on some kind of intergalactic council. It's very, very cool. All right. There are a lot of people who are thinking about the science. Are they going to do anything scientific or interesting up there? Because we don't want to waste any time we've got in space. We've got so much to do research-wise. And I know it's not a laboratory, and it's a good thing that you're not going to the ISS anymore. But it is still an incredible opportunity to test a bunch of stuff and to allow people to be part of some kind of, movement forward for humanity, even if it is the first kind of civilian competition winner to go to space. And maybe there's something else that we can tie into this. Are they going to do any science? Are they going to learn about space? Are they going to spend any time up there doing observational stuff?
Absolutely. In fact, Gareth, you're probably the first radio host we've spoken to in a number of years that's even acknowledged that. So the thing about Space Hero is we want to make space sexy, cool, and pop culture. So, of course, you want to be able to be relatable to the people who are watching the show. But absolutely, we will not miss out on the opportunity of doing many different things. There's going to be 3 space heroes on that mission. They're going to be in an enclosed space. Think the recent Inspiration 4 mission that Jared Isaacman did with some of his friends around the Earth 4 times, or well, every day they go around the Earth 15 times, by the way. That's what it happens. That's the speed of it, 17,500 miles per hour. So you see 15 sunrises and 15 sunsets every day. Fascinating stuff.
Wow. That is phenomenal to think about it that way. Going around the Earth 4 times, you'll see that many sunrises and sunsets. Obviously, it's costly to do this. Have you guys figured out how to pay for this? Because you obviously still have to tie up who the broadcast partners might be. You have your app and everything, so there's a huge amount of money that's already gone into this. But is it going to be difficult to bring in sponsors, advertisers, to get them to pay for this?
Very good question. And so let's dive deeply into the business side of things, right? Ultimately, it took us 4 years to really figure out the chicken and egg situation, because you'd have to appreciate that getting a mission requires some preconditions, and those preconditions, will also want to know if you can get a mission. And so it took us 4 years to really work our organization, build our organization so that people understand that we are credible and that we are serious about all of this, right? And now we are at this point. That's why we are in final negotiations on when that mission actually is going to be. And we are aiming for Q1 2024, because you asked when this is going to start, and it will start a year beforehand. So in the beginning of 2023, but the mission itself will be at the beginning of 2024. And lining up broadcasting partners and brand partners is absolutely part of the business model, but there are other partners that are possible too. We're talking to a couple of governments, right? We are talking to, all sorts of companies. You talked about crypto before us, and we believe that crypto and space are actually 2 technologies that must go together because they're future-facing and global. And you're absolutely right. At the moment, there is no real utility, no real application in crypto, and that can be changed, because what crypto ultimately does, it creates a level playing field for access to finance globally, right? But it's not used in that way, because of course the first application people think about is how to make themselves rich, right? And now that they've done it, we should think further into the long-term application of these things, and it will be a big part of Space Hero too.
Well, Sanele wants to know, can I have vodka in space? Okay, maybe not vodka, maybe coffee. That is where I draw the line. So
very important. It's a very important question.
There we go.
The big answer is this coffee or vodka at 7:30 in the morning?
I'll tell you what, you are in Ibiza, so it's probably vodka.
So that's a great question. So zero gravity means that nothing can be flat and straight. So being able to drink something in a pouch, I don't see any problem with the coffee. I think they already drink coffee in space.
Wonder, have they ever tested like drunk people in space before? I mean, I haven't really paid attention to what they've been doing on the International Space Station.
Not that we know. Not that we know of.
It could be very interesting to see someone really drunk in space. I think that could be a new dimension that we haven't explored properly yet.
Well, what we all don't know is maybe flying to space already feels like that, right? Because if your brain starts to hover in your own head, what's this going to do? I mean, come on.
It's amazing. All right. Well, we've got some people who are definitely on board. There are some people who just want to sign up. Yonda says, I've already pre-signed up on the website. Let's go to space. So give everybody the details. Where can people sign up? And if they do want to try their hand at this? I mean, they might not win, but it's worth a try anyway. Where do they have to go, Thomas and Deborah?
They have to go to wearespacehero.com. And that's where
spacehero.com.
Correct. That's where they can sign up. And you're absolutely right, Gareth, because people should try. You know, the first question that you should ask yourself is, do I have what it takes, right? And you see how far you can get on that journey. Because ultimately, if we really want to become a multiplanetary species, it must be as easy as entering a plane to go to another planet. And that's what everybody's working for, right? And you guys want to stay on Earth, but Debs and I for sure will also say hi from Mars.
Hi from space.
Yeah, listen, there are enough people who do want to go. Let us not take up space, literally space and space. Carl says, these people interview all over the world. And then in South Africa, what do we ask about? Alcohol. Yeah, well.
It's because it's important, Chief. You must ask the important questions.
Right.
It just shows that you guys are very free, and that's actually very refreshing.
Right, exactly. Congo Chris says you can feel the food and fluid floating inside your stomach in space. It's a big cause of nausea when you first get there, apparently. That's probably
that's right. The first 2-3 days you spend with adjusting, and we are thinking of how we handle that situation, right? So we hope that we find candidates that are not affected as much on that, because it will affect the footage. We are creating a live stream for the first time from a flying spacecraft. And
we don't want them vomiting all over the equipment the whole time.
Even if it's part, I mean, the equipment is a problem, you're right. But, even if it's part of the experience, showing what it is, right, going to space, and that's part of it, then we have to kind of show it, right?
Absolutely. Well, listen, guys, thank you so much for your time this morning. It's really good to talk to you. I hope that this thing is a go very, very soon. We will, those of us who want to go and take part will sign up, and those of us who want to watch will be waiting with bated breath to see it all happen. Wearespacehero.com if you're interested. And congrats to you for coming up with a good idea. I mean, I just love the fact that we're thinking big. There's nothing bigger than space. So when it comes to this stuff, I'm sure that there are loads and loads of people all over the world who'd be very excited to be a part of this. Well done to you. I hope we speak to you soon.
Thank you, Gareth.
We will. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Have a good morning. No more vodka.
That's what you have to worry about, Deborah. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Deborah. Wow. They do look like an international galactic space council, don't they?
Yeah, they put the cool in space. Like, I'm just like, oh, honey, I could see me vlogging. I could see me just living my best life. I feel like a Kim Kardashian type of family would pop out of this after doing that,
We can't hear you, Lesego. Just unmute your mic. Oh, there we go. No, you're muted again.
No, that's you, G.
That was you.
It's not. It was me. Okay.
No, go ahead, but you're right. Now we can hear you. Go for it.
It feels like another work meeting. Sorry, you're on mute. I hate that thing. So I actually need to start really introspecting, because as soon as she said, the whole alcohol question, I was like, well, actually,
it's an important question.
That would be a really cool road trip. Now that I think about it, I was like,
well, like Simpiro says, though, I mean, there are only a few people, maybe, we're under 100 people. I don't know if it's that small a number who've ever been to space. And maybe even if it's under 1,000, it's still a very small club. That's probably the most exclusive club you can belong to. Lots of people have been on holiday to strange places in the world. Lots of people have been on private jets or on yachts. Lots of people have been to, amazing events and met interesting people, but only a tiny, tiny, tiny minority of people on planet Earth can actually say they've been to outer space. So even if this thing doesn't work, the fact that you enter a competition and you go to the trouble and you be part of this show, even if it doesn't end up taking you to space, I still think the adventure would be worth it.
Yeah. And also I like the fact that, Deborah was saying this, that, it's really what they're trying to do is try and make this thing not look so formal and not so serious, and have a bit of fun with it. And, I call it democratization of space. And I think that's awesome because it allows regular people, alcoholics like myself and Simpiro, to go out into space. fully functioning alcoholics. That's what I like to call it.
Who knew
and I
that
think that's really cool.
is what would get us to want to go to space? Alcohol. Just put visuals there, and people are like, "Oh, sign me up!" Like this.
But it's so embarrassing. Like one of the comments, I think it was Carl, said, "It's amazing how South Africa, like everywhere all over the world, people are like, so do we have to do these kinds of physical exercises, and what can we read to prepare?" South Africa's like, can we puzza?
Yeah. Like that's very, very. It's scary, but very important. Like people are like, I want to have fun.
I wonder with lockdown, how many people have been sitting in Zoom meetings and so on, where they already had their 5th drink for the day, and then they're going into a meeting. I'm sure that there are plenty of people. If we could do a breathalyzer on half the people in these Zoom meetings, we would figure out very quickly that they started their lunch and they didn't finish and they kept drinking. That 3:00 meeting, they were not all there. They were having a lot.
Not at all.
Huh?
Have you not heard the term mama's cup? I think it's mom's cup. And then like there's a lady who my sister works with, and she's like, none of my kids are allowed to touch this cup. Whatever is in this cup, they're not allowed to drink it. And it's cold for when I have this cup.
Lesego's got a cup, a friend's cup that says, "Could I be any more thirsty?" There we go.
You see? That's the sign right there. And you're just sipping on it and you're just like, yes. Oh, yeah, yes. This is a great pizza, guys.
Here we go. Yonder's the most excited about this. Yonder says, "What a great concept. Again, it shows what we can do as humans. Space has always been there, and we just need cool ideas to make it accessible. There have been only about 550 people in space at the last check."
That's quite a lot.
It is quite a lot, but it's still under 1,000, which is not a lot.
True.
Compared to how many billions of people there are alive right now. I mean, I don't know. There's thousands of engineers. There's thousands of actuaries. There's tens of thousands of doctors. But 550, that's cool. I'll sign up for that club.
Here's something else that's interesting. Carl says, "I saw a stat. The average person is in twice the number of meetings that they were in 2020, thanks to virtual meetings. That's horrible. That's horrible. I hated meetings before. I have to tell you, I'm quite happy to do in-person meetings now. Like I like it. It's better. Sitting opposite someone, the real person. I know we got into this thing where we're like, oh, you could have meetings from anywhere and you could talk to. I kind of like the fact that you could still do face-to-face. And if I'm doing a serious meeting with someone I really want to discuss something important with, I can't say that face-to-face can be beaten. Sorry.
Okay. I was about to disagree with you there, but I think you had me at this serious meeting because for me, I think it's just kind of like made me a bit lazier because like I want to meet up with people, but then I think about the traffic, and then I think about like walking to my car, and I'm just like, and I think about like, the petrol price, and I'm like, and then I need to, and then one thing I hate is like parking in the mall, then having to like walk like to the other side of the mall just to get to a restaurant and meet with someone. Oh, I'm just like, no. But if it's really important, like if it's like a job interview or something like that,
sure.
It's your engagement is so much better. It's so much it's a deeper connection when it's face to face.
Yeah, and as Beth says, most Zoom meetings could be emails or even texts. That's true. Sometimes a meeting is just a way for some people to get instructions and give other people instructions. That's what they are.
Yeah.
Woody says, I hate those wellness webinars at work. We're all burned out and they don't care.
So, do you want to unpack that for us?
He looks like he doesn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Guys, it's such a tick box exercise. And it's such generic stuff. I know exercise, walk a little bit. I'm like, no, that's not going to help me. I mean,
wellness webinars. I know. Have we ever done a wellness webinar at Cliff Central? I mean,
no, sir. No. Like, no.
We wouldn't know how to start that. We wouldn't know what to do.
Walk a little bit. What's that?
Someone suggested a wellness webinar. I mean, I don't know what everybody else would say, but I'd say, well, do that in your spare time.
I was just like, it's like, oh, walk 10,000 steps on your Fitbit, and I'm like, guys, you just okay. and then that's just when I switch off. I don't even go
So
to
wait,
them anymore.
I have a question. So if this wellness webinar is supposed to make sure that you leave well, do you not leave a bit more like irritated? So it was counterproductive, like to your
Yes.
actual.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Shame.
And it's because, a lot of times, a lot of stuff that you have or engagements, a lot of time they're tick box exercises, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, well, no, now we've done this webinar and now people
Right.
are well. And then you start to see people burn out and people like just not coping, etc. So yeah.
No, stay away from that stuff, everybody. Don't be pulled into the bullshit like the wellness webinars and. I mean, like Dogozo says, I just don't attend those wellness webinars. No, you don't need to.
Yeah, me
You
too.
can get out of them. Say, I'm so well. I'm doing so well at the moment. I don't need to come to your wellness webinar. I'm great. I'm in perfect health. Thank you so much. Good to see you. Thank you. Bye bye, everybody. That kind of thing. The HR departments are trying. Don't knock them, says lovely Lady Lee. No, they're trying to make themselves useful in a world where they're no longer as useful as they once were. And what are you managing when people are mostly at home? HR. It's really tasks. It's you can do that on Slack, can't you? You don't need to have the HR department, right?
Everything's online. Everything.
If you're not actually around each other and talking about like, oh, I can't believe the traffic this morning, or oh, it's so cold, because those conversations you don't have to have anymore. You can go straight into the meeting. That's where I'm not for in-person meetings and going to the office. But there are ups and there are downs. You can either look at it as a net gain or a net loss. That depends on your point of view, I suppose. All right, lots and lots of people in the comments are talking about being drunk in online meetings, but that's not surprising. We've got a very bizarre audience here. So I think a lot of people in our audience are definitely big drinkers, and that worries me a little bit, because some of the people in our audience are also busy people that have important jobs that do important things. I'm a little concerned that some of the audience that listen to us are making a lot of their decisions while they're drunk during the day. That scares the hell out of me.
Gareth. Like, I'm just like, this is shocking. Like, you're gonna make a decision. This is why people have this rule, like, no meetings after 1 o'clock on a Friday afternoons, because bad decisions are made. Now we know the whole week. Just throw it away. Just don't have meetings during the week, because people are not making the right decisions. Like, what?
And I feel like the whole space here is, I was thinking about it now, it's like they need to make sure that thing launches on Puza Thursday.
All right. Well, listen, it's good to catch up with you, and I wish you luck on your busy corporate day today, because that's the kind of stuff that you do. And then also with the acting, hopefully we see a whole lot more of you in TV ads, on TV shows, on movies. Let's see if we can get both of those things going at the same time. And we will be supporting you anyway, no matter what happens. It's great to have a catch up with you, man.
Thanks a million, guys. This has been a little bit too long, but I really miss Cliff. And again, you guys have always supported me from the beginnings. I've been here since I was a grad, actually, and I was just thinking about it now. You guys have always been supportive. So thanks a million. And I will make you proud. You'll see a lot more of me on your screens and making.
We have no doubt. Simpiro and I will join you again tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. bright and early. Have an excellent day today. Be good.